My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice cold. I'm only here to even a score. Whoa. My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice cold. We down right now, but did it before. Whoa. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is sewn up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is sewn up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up. My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice cold. I'm only here to even a score. Whoa. My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice cold. We down right now, but did it before. Whoa. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is sewn up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is sewn up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of season 2, or episode number 54 of the United Ones podcast. I am your host, Roger Phipps, and it was game week, and we're getting ready for game 2 of the season. It's crazy. We waited that whole entire time, and then all of a sudden, the season was upon us, and we're already on game 2. There was lots of interesting college football happening, including some 0-2s already in the season, but we won't talk about that. FSU. But we might talk about that a little bit later. But for now, we have a full review to talk about. We've got some key takeaways to talk about. We saw KJ Jefferson, and that was a little questionable. We'll talk about that. We've got our score predictions for next week. We're going to recap the Big 12. Give a little listener love, provide our predictions, and then we're going to talk a little bit about other sports that Alan doesn't talk about. But for now, remember, we are the only podcast that features a former UCF national champion, a former UCF radio host, an ESPN analyst and hoops player, an infamous, yes, that's infamous, not infamous, rapper, our resident influencer and IG stars, shooting the breeze, talking UCF sports. And remember to like and follow us on YouTube, IG, Twitter, and check out the 70-plus teams and conferences on the College Huddle, the Big 12 Huddle, 4th in Florida, and a new stream coming to you this week that you'll see announced on our socials a little bit later this week. So really excited about all of that. We've got a lot of content coming your way. But first, welcome to the stage, Ben Stout. Hey, wait, you're not no, bruh.
No, I'm gonna stick with my what's up, guys. I mean, it's good to be 1-0. Let's put it that way, and looking forward to moving on to week 2 here and seeing if we can see some improvement in some areas and keep it going in other areas.
Awesome. Let's get that hair flip out of the way. Let's see it.
Oh yeah, the non-existent hair flip. I can't really represent for Nobro the way that he would do it.
Well, that's okay. We'll take what we can get, Ben, and we can call it a beard flip if we really want to, because you've got the beard going on. But besides that, let's go ahead and bring up to the stage Tre Neal. Tre Neal, welcome to the stage. Are you missing football yet? Are you missing playing football yet? And how mad are you at KJ?
Man, I woke up the other day. I ran with my wife. I forgot how far. And my back was hurting. I couldn't imagine playing a full football game. So, no, I do not miss playing football. I miss the guys, but I don't miss playing. And KJ did not play that well. We'll leave it at that for now. But,
well, that's right for now, right? So we need to change your segment from Tre Yells At Cloud back to Old Man Yells At Cloud with after that entrance. I don't know. Maybe we need to start investing in your hover round today. Also, let's go ahead and bring to the stage Alan Levin. Alan, welcome back, my friend.
Hey, what's going on?
Oh, man. Just excited for another week of football. We're already
it's back, baby.
Yeah, we're coming up on midweek already. It was fun. We were able to watch some even yesterday. So our text thread was hopping.
The NFL starts on Thursday.
I know. My Bengals are going to take it all this year. Screw Casey. Sorry, Andrew. And is San Francisco too. So Josh Lazar, welcome back to the stage. Last but not least, but always last, Josh Lazar.
If you know like I know, FSU just stepping-ish. Is the Gus Funk era funked out with the Harvey twist? If you get smoked like the Gators, then you high like every day. And if we lose to Sam Houston, the United Ones will regulate.
Oh, wow. All right.
The voice
Josh
is back.
Josh
A little
is
bit.
back. The voice is back. The infamous rapper kind of rapped, but
G-Funk.
little G-Funk.
Where rhythm is life and life is rhythm.
That's right. And we've got football. So super excited. Thank you guys for joining me again this week. Unfortunately, Nobra could not join us. We are recording on a Tuesday night because I had to travel back to Santa Rosa Beach after attending the game. Shout out to Julie. I was actually in the Tower Club this past week, which was an interesting, Tower Club, which was an interesting experience. Yeah, exactly. I've got my pinky in the air for those of you listening. It had been the first time in a while that I had been back in the Tower. I'm usually a resident of the lowly East Side Cabana Club. And, one thing you always hear UCF fans talk about is how they always complain about the East Side and the folks standing at the rail and all that other fun stuff. But let me just put this out there. I enjoyed the amenities. The food was good. They had these waffles that were sugar infused that were just really good. But get up out your seats, people. The East Side Club is a lot more fun. They may not show as many on TV, but it's a lot louder. People are more rowdy. For me, as far as an experience was concerned, I love the fact, and thank you again, Julie, for allowing me to tag along. I love the fact that we could do it, but I don't want to hear anything from the Tower Club people or the Tower people until you actually, start jumping around. I mean, when I see people saying third down and they're sitting down and they're doing this from their seats and it's only about 60 people out of the whole section. I mean, come on, the boys, I know it was New Hampshire, but the boys need, they need that energy. They need that voice of yours, stand up, make noise. We call it the bounce house because it makes noise with the aluminum that's under our feet. Do your part as a fan. And I know, I love all of you, but, if I'm going to sit over there on that side of the stadium, I'd still love to hear all of you get a little louder, at least throughout the season. So I'm hoping for that. So if anybody, hit us up in the comments if you disagree with me or if you want to put up for the West Side. But I'm going to stay East Side for life on this one. So I'm just putting that out there. All right.
Used to the family 4-pack over there at 216 or 224. Shout out to 224, yeah. So, but no. I would enjoy it.
Ben's throwing up the 224.
Yeah. I'm North Side. What's up, North Side?
North Side. All right. So we've got the North Side Hustlers and the East Side Hustlers repping against the West Side. All right. So let's get into a little bit of text talk this week. The text talk was hopping. At one point, I was looking down at my phone and there were 72 unread text messages. So boys, I'm just going to let you pick your favorites, the overreactions, the little bit of fun, and let me know what was in the text talk this week.
Well, I actually have one this week, so I may as well go first. I think we're going to talk about it throughout the show, but the one that I highlighted to kind of feature in the text talk section was by Alan. It said depth on depth on depth. And just prior to this, I had mentioned that Penny Boone only had like 1 carry for 4 yards in the first half. And then like a couple minutes, and then we were talking about how great Miles Montgomery looked. And then a couple minutes later, it was like Boone for 5 yards, Boone for 6 yards, Boone for 49 yards and a touchdown. And so it's just, and then Josh goes, so about Boone. And,
is Gus mic'd up to you, Ben? Or to Alan? Is that what's happening? Alan's like calling plays from the side.
Yeah, really. It was like, that was what I should have mentioned first, is what Josh said. So about Boone. That was because it was just well timed. We were talking about how we hadn't heard from him, and then all of a sudden he just exploded. But yeah, for sure. So depth on depth on depth, and we're definitely going to get into it this show. The running game looked good. All
right, Tre, did you have one for us this week?
Yeah, my favorite one kind of highlighted what I talked about earlier was Allen. He was just like, has KJ played football today? Yeah, when he said, has KJ played football before? That was it didn't look – he looked very rusty. And I don't know what it's attributed to. I don't know. But we'll talk about it. So to me, that was kind of the theme early on in the game from everybody. It wasn't just Allen. Allen's is just the one for me that caught my attention first.
I'm just going to put it out there.
Everybody in the chat chimed in and said, what's going on with KJ? I'll keep it that vanilla.
Well, but yeah, because let's put it out there. Allen is definitely a KJ hater. I'm just going to throw that out there right now.
Not a KJ hater.
KJ hater.
I'm a whoever makes UCF not play well hater.
Okay. All right. Well, it certainly seemed like a KJ hater during the text thread. I will say that. Allen.
Well, I'll say this. It's one game, so I'm not a KJ hater, but it's, going on 3 years of mediocre / bad QB play. It gets exhausting after a while when you got Mackenzie Milton and DG back to back like that. So, but yeah, my text talk were the first one was who said it? It was about KJ needs to not think that Paul Rubelt is at wide receiver. So sorry to pile it on to KJ. But yeah, I mean, that was kind of the theme, right? Is just he had a couple underthrown, a couple overthrown balls. So at least he didn't look as bad as DJ Ungaliungale from FSU.
You mean DJ Pooh?
That's a low bar.
DJ Pooh. That's what I'm calling him from now on. He's officially been dubbed DJ Pooh by me on the United one. So I mentioned that on 4th and Florida, and I was joking, but then I saw the last 2 games, and I was like, well, maybe that name will stick. All right, Josh, what about you? What was your text talk this week?
So many, but also not to be DJ Who Kid's a very famous DJ, so not that. He's really good. DJ from FSU, not so much. So we have more passing yards, 8-6. These are some first half thoughts. This is literally what the guys in Little Rock, Arkansas told me would happen, which is literally what they told me would happen. I hope we get first and second year KJ coming out in the next couple of weeks. Things that I heard in the stands: if he can't run, WTF is he here for? He can't throw a blanking ball. We can't do poop versus a peewee team. So in the second half, when things were getting better, we got to I love a wheel route, and that was the first one. So, and I will say there was a wheel route, I believe, in that FSU game that DJ also didn't hit in stride. So I know there's some people are like, well, you had to lower your knee to catch the ball. You had to slow down. Yeah, it's a wheel route. They were both touchdowns. Be quiet.
Oh, Josh coming out al fuego this week. It would have been interesting to have Josh and Allen in the same room during the game. It would have been not only the beat the.
Why am I getting all the KJ? Everyone hated on KJ. Literally everyone.
For the first. Well, that's in the second half. I even said if KJ didn't look like a peach emoji for most of the game, we'd be loving this. So
that was a compliment for him.
The third quarter, specifically the third quarter, it felt like that's when you could breathe a little bit. Like we knew we were winning the game, but we needed to see something more than what we just saw.
Yeah.
And I felt a little bit better. And I feel a lot bit better now that I've seen what the other Power 4 teams in the state are doing, except for Cam Ward, 1.5 million, that gets you a lot. But yeah,
were you calling Florida a G5 team? Is that, or an FCS team? Is that what I just heard?
No. I said other P4 teams.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But we F blank U, I, A, Y, Q, not those, but the teams that matter,
All right. Well, yeah, it was interesting to see what Cam Ward did to University of Florida last week. We were kind of wondering if they had upgraded. It doesn't appear that they didn't. So I still am going to say the UF game that's coming up in 3 weeks is our opportunity to retire yet another coach. We talked about that last time. Well, you're right. I mean, to be honest. All right. So let's talk a little bit about our game against UNH. Obviously, we won 57-3 to open up the season. So things that were, great stats, 639 total yards of offense, which is awesome. More importantly, and more awesome, 454 yards of rushing at 8.4 yards per carry. And that was between 4 running backs who absolutely all of them looked pretty amazing. Second most in a single game in program history, that many rushing yards. And they could have very easily been first had they run a few more times. We only allowed 162 yards, so defensively limited UNH to 3.4 yards per play, which I think was second or third lowest in Big 12 in this week. And 2.3 yards per carry, 2 for 15 on third down. So if you can hold a team for 2 of 15 on third downs, I mean, you're doing pretty well. Now, again, I'm going to say this because it is with a grain of salt because of who it was that we were playing. But at the same time, to Alan's point, there were a lot of teams out there that struggled with FCS teams this week. And they did what they were supposed to do. The running game did. Defensively, we did. I was very, very happy with, the defense. They were where they were supposed to be. They looked fast. But more importantly, they were in position. We saw some blitzes. We saw some disguised blitzes, which we didn't see last year. The interior line did not get a sack. However, they were getting the ball out pretty quickly. We had a couple of interceptions, so 2 interceptions. We were looking for that this year. And again, I know it's UNH, but it's still 2 interceptions. So all of the things we were looking for, with the exception of KJ Jefferson passing, I think, we got what we wanted to get. So I don't know. What do you guys think? What's your initial impressions?
At least for me, let me preface, because there's a 12-team playoff now with auto bids for the conferences. All I care about is winning conference. Because if we can win conference, we're in the playoff no matter what. We don't have to let fate decide anything. So I'm going to take every win we can get. I don't care how it looks. We don't have to have these, blowout wins, fancy wins anymore for style points. Hopefully, if we win conference, we win games, win conference, we're going to be in the playoff. But I don't know how far we're going to be able to get if our quarterback play doesn't pick up. It's run game.
I thought you were saving KJ for Tre Yells At Cloud. I mean, what's going on?
We're talking about the game. We're just rehashing the game. That's just. I guess we're gonna have to do it a little early. But again, and it's one game. I'm not really gonna be mad, but I am worried because he was missing easy throws. It's not like it was tough throws. A lot of throws sailed, and guys were wide open. So it's one of those things where, Roger, you alluded to it in 21-22 or in 21-22, he looked great when the O-line protected him. Last year, Arkansas didn't have an O-line and they didn't really protect him. He didn't look that great. Completely understandable. That was not the case.
He got injured too. He got injured because of that.
Absolutely.
Too.
Absolutely. But that wasn't the case on Thursday. The O-line I thought played pretty well. They kept them clean. There were some blitzes that they could have picked up, but that's neither here nor there. For the most part, he had a clean pocket, and he was missing throws. That worries me just a little bit. The yards he ended up finishing with a great stat line. Not great, but a better stat line than the first half. But a lot of those plays were wide open touchdowns. It wasn't like we could have all went out there and made those throws, to be honest with you.
Even though you were running this weekend and your back hurt, I mean, you think you could still?
I can still throw the football. I can throw a 20-yard wide open wheel route. I can do that. But right. I think overall we played as a team. I mean, special teams was amazing. Defense, I thought, played lights out. The run game was elite. Kobe Hudson, great plays when he had the chance. Xavier Townsend is electric. I mean, just get him the ball and get him the ball in space and let him make plays. I think overall, 9 out of 10 for the entirety of the game. That only reason it wasn't perfect is because, again, I don't think the quarterback play was good enough to win a championship. I think everything else was good enough to win a championship. And again, it's week 1, so it's nothing to really worry about. But I'm worried in the sense that this is New Hampshire. The teams after Sam Houston aren't getting easier than that. So that's my take from the game. So.
Well, I will say this, since you brought up the receivers, one of the things we were looking for was the involvement of the tight ends. We definitely were using them in the offense this time. We were trying to target them, only came down with one catch, but we were definitely trying to slip the tight ends out. And that was very encouraging to see. So if we can stop throwing the ball 300 yards over people's heads, I think, and make sure that we're hitting people in stride and leading them the right place. That was the thing that really threw me off, is I think the receivers were expecting, him to throw to the inside or whatever. And a lot of the time he was going to the wrong place with the ball. It wasn't just that he was throwing it high, but he wasn't leading the receivers or to hit them in stride. And they were expecting him to throw the ball one place and running a certain route, and he would throw it the other side, and they'd have to stop and adjust or whatever, which is why I think some of those balls were also high for the receivers, because they had to stop and adjust. So, really, really interesting stuff. And I will say this too, Deshaun Pace, dude.
Oh my gosh.
That dude, that to borrow a phrase from Gus, that's a real dude. I mean, he picked up from where he came from, Cincinnati, where he was a Big 12 star last year. And I mean, he just looks like he can out athlete people. Now it'll be interesting to see what happens, because he is a little lighter in his frame for a linebacker, and he kind of played both defensive back and linebacker. So it'll be interesting to see how he does against bigger Power 4 teams. But man, that guy, he knew where he was supposed to be. Ethan Barr the same way, knew where he was supposed to be. And we were putting Ethan Barr. It was interesting. We'd space our linemen out and put Ethan Barr over the center as almost like a nose tackle, like a hybrid standing nose tackle. And sometimes he'd blitz and sometimes he wouldn't. So it's interesting to have a guy that size, and use him in that way defensively, to be able to do that and, running past the center. So that was also interesting. Josh, what did you think?
Yeah, when it comes to this game, I have so many mixed emotions, right? I just do, because you see all of the amazing things that happened in the second half, right? I mean, and then you see all these things on week 1. I am in the first half. I am cautiously optimistic. That's where I'm at right now. I'm cautiously optimistic. We can't deny what we saw in the first half of KJ. We also can't deny the insane defense that we saw all game long. And I'm looking forward to Sam Houston State and being in the bounce house and seeing how that feels, because I'm kind of in the let's get the week 1 out of here type of frame right now. That like week 1's done. You know, you did you checked out the tape, and then we move on. I'm in the okay if we got some music in the background. If we can take all that great defense, keep it. If we can get that rushing attack and the offensive line maybe doing even a smidgen better, and just turn up a notch of KJ and see more of that third quarter KJ, we're golden. No one's thinking about a 20-point spread. So I'm kind of in the cautiously optimistic and really looking forward to Saturday.
I will say this, since you mentioned the running backs, and this kind of triggered something else that I noticed. The running backs were much better in pass protection in this game. Now, again, it's against UNH, right? Yeah. But they were picking up the blitzes.
And they knew where they were at. UNH blitzed a lot. So
I was wondering,
because that was good to pick up all those different kind of blitzes, because they were sending a lot of blitzes. That was really the only way they were kind of making stops on us, was just blitz crazy.
And I don't know the jargon, Tre would, when two defensive tackles cross, or defensive tackle and the defensive end cross each other.
Yeah, it's called a game. Yeah, a game.
Yeah. Yep. I started looking at the lines during the game, and I'm like, I was wondering why there seemed to be a significant amount of pressure when they looked like 5 to 7 inches smaller than us at every position from height wise. And they were doing some type of games and some type of stuff within the defensive line that really surprised me. But look, we're probably, I know enough about I know what
that was good. That's exactly what was happening.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what things are called, but I know it when I see it. And they were not doing standard, regular defense, or at least when it comes to the front four. They were doing. There's a couple of times you're like, how the heck is any of this offense letting these guys through? And that's probably why.
Yeah, a lot of different stunts on the D line, a lot of different stunts, and we did some too. Like Roger was talking about with Ethan Barr. Sometimes he would blitz, sometimes he'd back out, he'd loop around. That's pretty much what they were doing, but they were doing it all game, because that's really the only way they can win. They can't just go, one-on-one, mano-a-mano against our guys. They're just not good enough. So you have to get creative, and that's what they were doing.
Well, I mean, we were definitely showing that, we weren't trying it all out, but they were definitely out there playing with the calls, making sure people had the right fits and alignments and all of that other stuff, moving guys around on defense, on our side, so that we're preparing ourselves to be able to do more exotic things as we proceed on with different games. Alan, other than KJ Jefferson, what were your thoughts on the game?
I mean, I always like to, for week 1, especially against FCS opponent, I always don't think there's a ton to take away, whether it's super good or super bad. You may be starting to look at some trends that may develop if we see the same thing, good or bad, happen in week 2, week 3. So I don't think it's a huge measuring stick, and I'm not majorly alarmed about any one thing. It's just like classic, like UCF, for it to be like this game where we blow someone out by 54 and the running game's great and there's all these positives, but it's like, oh, well, the biggest thing, our star quarterback transfer looks like total crap. Great. That's not good for the rest of the season. So it just kind of naturally took away. Like if it was like any other problem, even if it was like, I don't know, the running backs had some fumbles or the receivers had more drops or the defense didn't look that great, I'm like, all right, those are things you could work on. But when KJ came out and not only had,
didn't I say other than KJ Jefferson?
Well, it's part of my main point here, so I got to make it. So, if you didn't have the underthrown, the overthrow, the bad pick, and then also getting stuffed on 4th and 1 and essentially getting called out by his own coach for that, even though he didn't name drop him, he was clearly talking about him. It was a little bit of a bummer. But overall, I felt the team looked as an overall group better than last year in a lot of different phases, specifically on defense and then also on special teams. I was like, to me, that was my number one thing. I thought the special teams was by far the best unit. I mean, you talk about Townsend having over 170 all-purpose yards. Boomer going 9 for 9 when you count extra points and field goals, having a blocked punt on special teams, Boomer booming it into the end zone, like no problem on kickoffs. Like that to me was the biggest thing, because we had a lot of miscues on special teams last year. And a lot of just, once Boomer went south, I mean, it was real bad there. And then there was a lot of, penalties and other things. So I was really enthused by that the most. But overall, yeah, I mean, I'm really curious to, even though this week is still a quote unquote lesser opponent, it is going to be interesting to see more of a step up when you have, it's only a 3 touchdown spread and not, 42 plus point spread. So overall, I'm kind of like Josh, cautiously optimistic, but I'm not going to take too much away from a week one. FCS.
You saw the FPI this week too, right? They came out with their predictions. Yeah. Well, not only that, but they came out with the predictions for, they basically with spreads. Well, the playoff too. Yeah. We have a 19% chance of making the playoff according to FPI now. But they also, they also came out and redid the schedule, and basically, according to them, we should or could win every single game. Now, there's some away games where it's like a -1, which means that pushes it back our way. But it'll be interesting to see how the money flows after Sam Houston, because I think Sam Houston is going to be the litmus test on where everybody's kind of giving KJ a mulligan for game 1. Let's see how he does game 2. But I think here's the thing, guys. If he wants to, the good thing about all of this is we demonstrated that we can run QB power. So, everybody was talking about Castellanos, and his performance against FSU. We can run that kind of game plan, that George O'Leary-esque game plan, the same one Georgia Tech ran against FSU. We've got the defense to do it, I think, and we've got the running back room to do it, and a running quarterback. So if we needed to, we can limit games kind of like what K-State did last year, and some other teams when we played them as well. So I think the good news about all of this is, even if KJ has an off year passing, he's not the guy that we thought he was, we still have the ability to win games with the defense that we have, the running back room that we have. But the receivers, I'm sure, are going to be upset, especially Kobe Hudson, if that happens. So speaking of KJ, he was 7 of 14, so 50% for 164 yards, 2 TDs, 1 pick, 1 rushing TD. RJ Harvey, 142 yards, 2 TDs, moved into number 7 in UCF history for career rushing yards. We had that discussion a couple of episodes ago on where he would end up. The interesting thing is he was 2nd in the Big 12 behind Taj Brooks, and he only beat him out by, I think it was like 8 yards. But RJ Harvey did that on far fewer carries than either. Oliver, who was much heralded this season, also he was 4th or 5th place, and he had 28 carries. So, and they didn't play. I mean, South Dakota State's a little bit more difficult. But it's really interesting. I didn't realize that we left out Ben. I'm sorry, Ben.
It's all good. Yeah,
I just stand up taller, because we know that nobody will miss you if that's the case.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a few thoughts. I mean, it's not terribly different than what we've all talked about here, but I did. I said last week that I was one of the main things for me looking at the week 1 game was that our defense wouldn't give up a touchdown, and they were able to accomplish that regardless of the garbage time towards the end of the game. Regardless of, kind of a slow start from our offense, not giving them great field position in the first quarter, they were able to take care of business overall. I just thought, and you mentioned it earlier, Roger, that and that's the way that, you and Tre and others kind of view the game is a little bit differently than I'm watching a football game. And just one of the things that I really noticed is that our guys always seemed to be around the football. Like, even if they were able to complete a pass, which they didn't do much of, New Hampshire only completed 14 passes in this game. Ironically, that's a little bit more than we did. But besides that, I mean, even when they were able to complete a pass, it seemed like one of our defenders was standing right there waiting to hit the receiver hard. So, I mean, it just felt like they were always in the right spot. And that's encouraging to see, because regardless of the opponent, you wanted the defense to look like they were a solid, defensive unit. And that's what I feel like we viewed on Thursday night. So I was really happy to see that. And then we've already talked about it as well, but the depth in our running back room and the quality of like the 4 running backs that we have is just extremely impressive. But on top of that, like, RJ Harvey just like shined above the other 3 so much. And the other 3 were so impressive that it's just like, it's really interesting. And again, I'm going to temper my expectations just because of the opponent, but I really think there's a potential that he could have a special year here. And that's just crazy to think about, considering the amount of talent that he has in his own position on his own team. And he was just so impressive, but the rest of the running backs were so impressive that it just seems like any one of them could break for 150 yards in any game this season, and we would not be surprised. And then lastly, I'll just echo what Alan had brought up, just as far as I thought an individual player besides RJ that was very impressive in this game, and you saw a lot of flashes that I think are going to be fun to watch this year, is Xavier Townsend is just, I mean, he's just something special in this offense and on special teams. He's just the type of player that we knew we had when he came in as a freshman, and just it appears that he's going to be able to get the opportunities to really display his tool set from a talent standpoint as a football player. Like, this year is going to be an interesting year, as long as he stays healthy, and I'll knock on wood as I say that. But X is something special. So,
well, you mentioned the other running backs. One of the things that I've been telling you guys all season is watch out for Miles Montgomery, and it was interesting because he was in before Penny Boone. His stat line, 77 yards, 1 TD, 49 receiving yards, and 1 receiving TD. And, just his energy when he got out there, his energy was just infectious. And he's happy to be out there. He definitely showed that he has the goods as far as being able to play the position. He was fast. He was slippery. He was just a great running back. He was fun to watch. And I think my text in the text thread this week was Miles M. Effin Montgomery, right? Because he looks the part. I mean, he looks like a starting running back on any Big 12 team. He's got good size and good vision, and he blew by everybody. So very, very happy to see Miles Montgomery. Penny Boone, we saw him on short yardage situations as well, which we expected him to. So it looks like he's going to be the red zone running back. He had 81 yards and 1 TD, but he also broke loose for a long run as well. So he was showing that he had the wheels. He was very impressive. Johnny Richardson, 40 yards rushing, 22 receiving, and 1 TD as well. So it was the classic Oprah situation. You get a TD and you get a TD and you get it. I mean, look at this. It's 2 TDs for one running back, 2 TDs for the second running back. And then 1 TD for the other running back. So you've got a grand total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 TDs accounted for by the running backs in this game. I mean, you can't ask for anything more with 4 different running backs. Then they're all doing different things. So I know everybody was kind of talking about Boise State running back, which we knew was good. We saw him. He's a good running back. But I'd rather have 4 guys to keep them fresh, right, than have to ride one throughout the whole entire season. So very, very, very excited about that. On the receiving front, very interesting. If I was a receiver, I'd be kind of upset. Kobe Hudson, 2 catches, 61 yards. He did drop a touchdown that should have been catchable in the back of the end zone. That was one of the early passes by KJ that should have been brought down. The spot in the ball, I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it was well within what someone like Kobe Hudson should be able to catch, and most receivers.
Especially when he made the catch before halftime that went down the sideline.
Yeah, he
definitely had that one earlier.
Yep. So I know he pointed to himself coming off the field too, because he knew that was on him. It's funny. I think there were 3 or 4 touchdowns where we had miscues. This could have very easily been a 70+ point game. Very, very easily been a 70+ point game. Brandon Marshall stood out again, 4 tackles, 2 TFLs, 1 pass breakup. Antoine Jackson had 1 pick. He was out of position at times. You can definitely see why he's still working his way into our defense. But Braden Marshall, man, we talked about him. We knew he was good last year. This year he was good. It's just we've got a great set of defensive backs to go along with the front line and the linebackers, and I'm really, really confident in our linebackers as well. Boomer, as you mentioned, 2 for 2 on field goals, although it really should be 3 for 3 because he did make that one as well that was called back for something. I don't remember what it was called back for. And 7 for 7 for extra points. I think this is more evidence that, like I said, he had dead leg because he was, even Gus said it was a lot last year for him to do the kickoffs and the field goals, which he was doing last year. And another interesting comment in the presser from this week was that Gus mentioned that he got back to being a sports psychologist with Boomer. So that tells me he's spending a lot of time building his confidence. He said he wasn't able to do that last year, but did it the year before. So it was an interesting comment on that as well. So, Alan, you have some key takeaways here. What's your key takeaways offensively and defensively if you want to sum it all up?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if we're going to keep it short offensively, run game is elite, better than advertised, special, whatever, adjective you want to use. And I think can truly keep us in any game. I don't care, even if stacking the box and all that stuff. I mean, when you just have that many weapons that can wear you down in so many different ways, I just feel like that's something we kind of saw what Boston College did to Florida State last night. I think Florida State had 1 possession in the entire first quarter. It's like we can kind of have that type of effect on teams. And obviously, okay, passing game needs work. If I'm keeping it short, defensively, I was very impressed with the secondary. I thought the linebackers looked a lot better. I thought we looked more talented, bigger, deeper. But overall, I would have liked to seen just more pressure. It's been talked about, but more pressure to the QBs. I know they were getting it out fast, but that was an issue last year. We didn't have many sacks or tackles for a loss. We were ranked in the 70s in the country last year in both metrics. So I'd like to see a little bit more of that. But yeah, pretty much it.
All right. So, we talked about, you have a comment in here that says, is KJ a bad debt? Are you concerned with him in the passing game? So let's take a step back. We didn't talk about Ja'Cory Brown at all.
I meant bad debut. Sorry.
Oh, bad debut. Okay. I thought you meant a bad debt because we spent $325,000.
Oh, that's Freudian slip right there.
That's a TBD right there.
No, debut. I meant debut.
Debut. All right. Well, it worked either way. So either byline worked. Let's talk about. Let's get into KJ. I'll let Tre kind of air his thoughts. We'll hold on his thoughts on KJ. But what do we think about Ja'Cory if he had to come in? Let's say KJ has another bad game. I don't think Gus would let him in this game. What did we think of Ja'Cory Jacuri's performance, because he had a kind of hodgepodge kind of performance as well. What do you guys think?
Well, at least coming right off of the bat, he was more accurate with his passes, but they were like Justin Holman fastballs too. I'm sure they stung when they hit the glove.
Oh, he had a quick release.
Yeah, and you can see trajectory was good. Speed was probably a little too fast. I liked what I generally saw, but I also can see why KJ is the starter, forgetting if it was a bad debt or not. The reality is that I feel like he can be the starter. I feel confident that if he needed to take over a game, we might still have a shot, which is really what you want in your backup quarterback, right? Obviously he needs to clean up he needs to not have the ball hang out like a loaf of bread, right? I mean, ball security, of course, is a issue, and not all of his passes.
Well, I mean, he did fumble. He did get stripped.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, he got stripped, if I remember correctly, because the ball was not, high and tight to the chest. But the reality is that I'm not saying put him in and he should be QB1 right now. And I feel very comfortable if we had to, a lot more comfortable than in previous years. So, yeah, that's my opinion. I thought it was good, and I see the potential for the future. So that's nice to see too, especially since a lot of QBs that come in are one and dones when they come from the basically nil, pay for them through nil, and then they leave.
So Tre, did you ever have to catch a pass from Justin Holman?
No, I played defense.
No, I know, but I thought maybe you guys were joking around on the sidelines, or like you were out there, maybe got an interception, got your hands on one, or
yeah, that has definitely happened, and it for sure hurts. Yeah, he throws. Holman had an extremely strong arm. You guys remember the Hail Mary versus ECU? Not only did he throw it 50, 60 yards, he threw it to the moon in the air. Like it took you have to have arm strength just to throw it that high.
Right.
And Jacuri reminded me a lot of that in that sense of the throwing part.
All right. So if you caught a pass from him, whether you picked it or whatever, how bad did your hands hurt afterwards?
I mean, it hurts. It's different on defense, I guess, because I'm not really thinking about how hard the pass is. Offenses, those guys kind of know, so you can kind of adjust to it a little bit, kind of maybe even use your chest if you have to. But I'm sure it hurts. I remember I had a guy in high school when I played receiver who threw hard, and those balls are never easy. Pause. Like it's never
pause. You paused yourself. That's amazing.
So yeah, I'm sure it does hurt though, for sure.
All right, Alan, what do you think about the Jacuri Brown experiment?
I mean, he came in essentially garbage time. It's like, how do you kind of judge those type of things? It's like, I don't know if New Hampshire's second unit was in, but ours was obviously in when the game was kind of, out of hand. I thought his running looked a lot crisper and a lot I don't know the word, lighter than KJ Jefferson. I know he's obviously smaller than KJ and not as bulky, but he just was a lot just quicker. His kind of front end, just straightaway breakaway speed looked a lot just cleaner. And I thought his throwing, even though, there wasn't any, it was mostly vanilla playbook, looked better. To me, he looks like a very promising prospect for the future. I mean, I do like that he's played in 9 games in his career. He started 4 at Miami. The results were mixed, but, it kind of fits that typical Gus mold, a guy that can both run and throw as dual threat. I definitely, I was joking throughout the game saying stuff like, I miss Pete DeNovo and let's start Jacuri Brown. But I think, Josh, you had said it was clear that why KJ was number 1. As bad as KJ looked, he just still looked more poised, like he had been there before. Yeah. It's kind of one of those things like Floyd Mayweather would start out slow in fights, and then he just, that poise was there and he would, win out in the end. Kind of felt that way with KJ. He's been around a while. You could tell he's a veteran, and it's a 1-game sample size. I would never judge off of 1 game, good or bad. So I think, obviously give him more of a chance. But Jacurri looked like he could have a promising future, and it is helpful when a guy has already got some playing time. So God forbid anything happens to KJ this year. I think we're not relying on a true freshman or a redshirt freshman. So it's never played anything. So I think he clearly should be the quarterback too, and it's a good option.
Ben?
Yeah, that's what it was. He kind of came in and he was like a little bit of a lift. Like you were just excited to see like his energy from the QB position. It seemed like he was just like maybe overly hyped almost. Like maybe that's the reason why he had so much zip on his ball. Like he was just like, I mean, it just seemed like he was just a little bit too hyped up. And who could blame him? As to why he was like that. I mean, I think also too, he came in at a time of the game that doesn't really have much pressure. He can kind of be that kind of exciting bolt of energy. And so yeah, like he looked impressive at times, also looked a little bit, kind of not as poised as Alan said at other times. I think the most important thing for him to show in that situation was that he was capable if needed. And I think that for the most part, he showed flashes of that. And that's what we're all talking about here is, if we have to go to him, which would mostly, unless something disastrous happens, would mostly mean like an injury, would be the only reason why we would need to go for him for anything significant. It seems like he could be serviceable in this offense. And then, I mean, Alan using the word prospect, I think is really applicable. I think that's probably the most appropriate word for Jacurri Brown right now, is just seeing that he is somebody that, give him time in this offense, give him time to learn under KJ Jefferson, give him time to learn under Gus Malzahn and that QB room, and it's exciting to see what that future could hold.
For sure.
All right. Well, let's talk about linebackers a little bit. Anything that you guys want to mention about the linebackers?
We have them. We have linebackers.
They're real football.
More than one.
Yeah.
More than one.
All right, Gus Malzahn Jr.
They're real dudes that back there.
Yeah. And I think they complement each other really well too. Like I think Barr is the guy that, like you said, he's the blue dot. He sets the defense. He's the one that talks to the defensive coordinator, whoever's calling the plays. That's who's talking to him. And he's the guy that looks like he's always in the right place, always aligned right, always, reading his keys and flowing. That's what I took. And then next to him, you pair Deshaun Pace, who is he's just electric. He's fast to the ball. He shoots gaps. He makes plays. He can cover. Like to me, that's the perfect combination of talent. You don't want two guys that can just, stuff the run. You don't want two guys that are just finesse kind of guys. You want that blend of different types of players because their skill sets fit next to each other and you can use them in different ways. There's no real predictability. So like you said, he rushed the passer. Ethan Barr rushed the passer. Deshaun Pace blitz. Like you want to be able to have that versatility. So again, I think, those two guys looked really good. We're going to be praying for them to stay healthy all season. Because I think they're just a great combo. We stayed in nickel. I think that's like our base defense. So that we're going to rely on them a lot to make plays just up the middle and in space. You're muted, Roger.
You're right. With Braden Marshall out there, I imagine we're probably going to stick with nickel for the rest of or night, as we call it around UCF. Yeah. At the end of the day, what?
Around this place.
Yeah, this place. Special. It's special. So, at the end of the day, I think we'll definitely see more nickel in the base defense. We saw multiple fronts, but it looks like our linebackers, for me, they were fast enough to make up ground into coverage if they needed to, which is something, pace gives us a lot of options when it comes to that. If we need to drop somebody back or if we need to spy somebody, we have a lot of options there. If we want to bring up Ethan Barr to, over the center. We can do that and still be comfortable enough with the linebacking talent that we have to cover the edges. So being able to commit that, and then also having the safety help, to allow Ethan and the others to do some more exotic things, I think is just going to bode well. It's something we didn't have last year, and certainly something we didn't call. Well, whether you thought we had it or not, we didn't call any of that. And I think that's going to give us a lot better defense and a much more aggressive defense. Ted Roof, we said he was going to be an aggressive defense. He definitely was an aggressive defense. Same way Bill O'Brien was in the BC game. I mean, he was blitzing everything. So, it'll be really, really interesting to see what happens with that. Secondary, again, they did what we expected them to do, right? We expected them to be good. When you don't hear about a DB, then you've done a good job, right? So, what can I say? The secondary was good. We'll see how they do against other teams, but there's not much to be said. Not much to be said there. Alan had a note in here with UCF's third down offense was only 4 of 11. So that's an interesting stat. 4 and 11. I don't know how I feel about that. We did better earlier, but a lot of that was bad passes, right? So on those passing situations, we were sailing them or didn't lead them properly or did whatever. So I don't know how much of that is KJ and how much of that is something to be concerned with.
Well, when you got running backs averaging like over 10 yards a rush, it's not like you're getting 3rd and 2, right? Like if you're at 3rd down, it's probably like 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7. It's a little bit more, just because the first 2 downs, either they were incomplete passes or they were, they happened to stop them for a little bit, But yeah, I think that might have been a result of just if you want to criticize our offense, even outside of KJ, like we relied on explosive plays. We were given explosive plays, so I'm glad we took advantage of it. But I mean, you look at the amount of just over 40-yard plays, over 30-yard plays in this game. They were high. So
we had 11 third down tries, right? Mm-hmm. And the time of possession was roughly split. UCF had 29 minutes and 33 seconds versus UNH, which had 30 minutes and 27 seconds, right? So I'm not too concerned about it right now. I mean, especially with 639 yards of offense. Sure. 639 yards of offense. I mean, we did it in a different way than we used to in the Frost years, but those are Frost numbers, you know what I mean? And everybody vaunts that. And the big part about it was the number of TDs that we had. We talked about the running backs earlier. We had 6 TDs just from the running backs. So that means last year it was, hey, we were putting up a lot of yards, but we weren't scoring the TDs. This game, at least, we scored the TDs. So let's hope that continues to happen. So, all right. So let's take a moment here and recap and talk about who was closest to the pin as far as our week 1 score predictions recap. Now we will argue about this because I'm going to make up the rules that are best for me throughout the season.
We're going to have the same rules all season this time.
Yeah, I'm going to make sure that I'm not taking you guys to Delmonico's this year. Which apparently Tre still owes us from Nightline, but we're not talking about that. So it's a conspiracy. Yeah. All right. So Alan, you checked in, you had 42-3. So you got the 3 right, but you were a little short on that. Ben,
short.
Well, you said it. I didn't. Ben, no. I said he was short on the score, not on his height. You said that. All right. So Ben, you checked in at 43-3. So a little bit closer to the pin than what Alan was by 1 point.
Alan and I got the defensive number right, though.
So we can argue in our favor that we're the closest because of that.
Yeah,
no,
we can argue.
And at one point in the game, it was 43-3.
It was. It was just right.
I mean, you're still off by 15 points and 14 points respectively, right? So Tre, on the other hand, he checked in at 56-10. So he was pretty much pretty close to on the nose as far as what we were going to score, although we did leave at least 3 or 4 touchdowns on the field.
Oh, easily.
So, so 56-10. So for you, Tre, you were closer. You were 7 points off. So you were closer than your two compatriots there. So you're safe for steak dinner.
How do you get 7 points off? Like, what are you using?
3 points off, actually? Right?
7 points off the defensive score, 1 point off of the offensive score is 8 total
8 points. Yeah, 8 points. So Josh Lazar, I'm sure you were mentioning this for a reason. You were at 52-10. So you were off on, 5 points and 7. So 13.
You're really going to math live? That's great.
Yeah, 13 points. And then Andrew had us at 70-14. Now,
by the way, anyways, go ahead. Go ahead. Keep going.
No, I was going to say, Andrew, it was funny because he may have been closest to the pin offensively had we scored the touchdowns that we should have scored, right? Yeah. But unfortunately this week, Andrew was not closest to the pin. So that was his hot take of the week. I checked in at 63-10. So I was the other direction. So I was 16 points. So
Tre wins.
So Tre wins this week.
This is what we're doing every game, right? We're not going to change the rules or do something different.
I will change the rules if I want to change the rules, and I won't change the rules as long as I'm not buying steak dinner. So we'll leave it at that. All right. So the segment that everybody's been waiting for. Tre, unleash the beast. Yell at the clouds. I'm going to sit back and be quiet.
Yeah, I mean, I think we overall as a team played a great game. Like I said earlier, flawless on defense, I thought. Special teams made impact plays, game-changing plays. Run game was amazing. O-line, I thought, played very well. Receivers, with the chances they made, for the most part, made their plays. I was worried about the quarterback play just because they were open throws. They were clean pocket throws that he sailed. I'm going to chalk it up, like we said, just game one jitters.
Bro, there's not a lot of yelling going on right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's game one. I didn't see anything glaring that was an issue. It's just that was the one problem. And, again, it's game one. I'm going to cut them some slack. But game two, if it comes out and does that, it's going to be a problem because, one time, okay, whatever. But, back-to-back games, and, the competition is not going to get easier after that. But I think overall I don't really have much to yell about. I think this offense, Gus is running what he ran with Cam Newton. That's the kind of guys, that's the scheme. Because KJ is just a bigger guy. I mean, they kept saying on the telecast, he's 250, and that might be being generous. He looks big. He's a big guy.
70.
Yeah, he's a big guy. And Ja'Cory Brown, same thing. He's probably 220, 230. Like, these aren't lightweight dudes. These are, guys that they can deliver the blow to defenders. Pause. So I think if Gus can run that offense,
Miami's seeping its way into your DNA with that blow comment, bro.
I can't. You're not gonna get me. So I just think that if we can clean up our quarterback play, I think this can be a special team, in my opinion. At least from just game one. We could be jumping the gun, but again, this is what we've been talking about all offseason. This is Gus's most talented team, one of the most talented teams. Gus has been adamant saying it's time to, get the job done, and I don't see why not. And after what we saw week 1, I don't see too many holes on this team after week 1. I don't see. Yeah. So we'll see. That's my yell at a cloud this week.
All right. He whispered at a cloud, so I took the banner off of there because he was just whispering. All right, let's go ahead and pivot. Wow, you guys are out of practice. All right, we're going to week 2 preview. We're going to talk a little Sam Houston State this week. UCF opens up as 21-point favorites against Sam Houston State, so a little bit less than what we were last time. Sam Houston State, as a reminder, played Rice this weekend. Rice was actually favored in this game. They won the game convincingly, 34-14. I was just perusing their stats. They had 407 yards of total offense, 229 passing, 178 rushing, and they only averaged 3.9 yards per rush versus 8.5 yards per pass. So this team's balanced as far as what they're going to try to do to you. But if you can only get 3.9 yards per carry on Rice, I don't see a whole lot of hope for this team versus this UCF defense. Interestingly, and I think a good omen, they had 407 or 407 yards of total offense. They were 6 of 16 on third down efficiency. So there's not really too much to talk about. They were low. They weren't penalized very often. 2 for 20 versus Rice, which was 6 for 44. So what that tells me, if I'm looking at that and I'm looking at the offense, Hunter Watson is their QB. He was 16 of 27. So just over 50% passing, more like 60% passing, 229 yards, 2 TDs. And for rushing, he was actually their leading rusher as well. So he's a dual threat quarterback, rushed for 14 carries and 57 yards with a 31 long. And then their true running back is John Gentry, who also had 14 carries and 56 yards and a touchdown. So I'm not that worried. Quavez Humphrey, who was their leading receiver, had 3 catches for 93 yards, and they tend to spread the ball around. So as long as we can, our secondary does what it should do. I'm not too worried about Sam Houston. And I'm actually, when we get into our score predictions, I'm going to be a little bit more bullish on my score predictions than what I think the spread is. So that's kind of where I'm leaving. What are your guys' thoughts on Sam Houston State?
I was just going to say one quick thing about Hunter Watson is that he won a JUCO national championship at Iowa Western Community College. So, he's got some interesting background and experience. Obviously, not at this level by any means, but he had a decent game the other night. Gus had some good things to say about their coaching staff, about the personnel that he's seen on tape with Sam Houston State. I think it'll be what I'm excited about this game for is it's a good ramp up in the season with our first opponent, our second opponent. I think it's just it was a good way of putting together this schedule. I think so far, trying to get into this season because this is a step up from New Hampshire. This is, playing against a Division I team that, it is 1-0 as well. So it'll be a little more of a challenge, I think. I would think a little bit more of a challenge than the victory we just saw last Thursday. But, I'm expecting us to eventually wear them down and pull away as well.
Yeah, they're in Conference USA this year. They stepped up recently from FCS as well. So they're a program that's still building. They were pretty good in FCS. So I think long term, Sam Houston State's trajectory within Conference USA will be good. It will be solid. I don't think they're ready yet. The big thing I think is, this game is going to be more about they're going to try to spread you out with passes, right, and dink and dunk passes too. So as long as we can keep them in front of us and our DBs do their job, I think that's going to allow us to really crash down on their quarterback. And Rice, although is supposed to be good for who they are, in the conference that they are, when they're playing UCF, that's a whole nother ball of wax. So anybody else have any comments on this game?
I'll just be real quick. If you look at that Rice game, they got up 17-0 real quick with a 67-yard pass with one play to Quavez Humphreys, and then 2 plays later a pick 6 for 30 yards. And sometimes when you get down that quick, that fast, you have to take a little bit to come back and try to overcome that. I feel like that has something to do, or some of, it's half the points, right, that they scored. And they have 2 other longer drives for touchdowns. But if we should be winning this game. They are not going to be a lower conference team, as Gus stated last week in New Hampshire. But if we're at the point where we feel worried about teams like this, the aspirations we have as a team this year are just not going to happen.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I feel like people are making way too much out of that Rice victory. First of all, I know Sam Houston just joined FBS, this is their second season. But Rice was in, Sam Houston's in Conference USA and Rice was in Conference USA literally like a year ago. So they're essentially conference mates. So it's not that impressive beating them. I know they're coming up, but we've seen a lot of schools, high-end FCS schools, make a very quick transition, whether it's James Madison or some of these other schools that have their App State that have done really well. And Sam Houston won the national championship in the FCS. So I don't think them beating essentially what's a conference opponent is that impressive. And it's not even like a top tier group of 5. They would have beaten like Boise State or Memphis or something. I'd be like, okay, that's one thing. But so I'm not, too worried about that. I think 21-point spread I actually think it should be a little bit bigger, but I am happy that we are at least playing in FBS and we're going to get, I think, a little bit better read on the team because it still is a step up in competition, but them beating Rice does not really concern me at all.
All right. Ben, any other thoughts?
No, I'd already said about it. I agree with the guys, and it'll be interesting to see with a little bit of a step up in quarterback play, and they got some weapons on offense just to make sure that the defense continues to shine and look like they're flying around the ball like they did in the first game. That's what I'm interested to see. But we'll see what happens here on Saturday.
All right. Tre, did you have any special, when you were a player, did you have any special rituals that you had other than your traditional one that we know about with regard or thoughts about a game like this versus someone like Sam Houston State? I mean, did you guys, quote unquote, stay locked in, or was this kind of hey, we're going to go play, but it's going to take us a quarter or two to wake up?
No, I think, it depends what year you're talking about.
Well, 2015, I don't think you ever woke up. So let's just put it that way.
So for the most part, the years that I played with, we always tried to take care of these games early. One, because you don't want to get hurt. Not in a game like this. This isn't a game. And if you think about just going to the NFL, when they look at your tape, this isn't a game that they're going to look at, so this isn't a game that we think of in the sense like, I need to be on my P's and Q's. Of course you do, but you're not trying to kill yourself in a sense over it. And we wanted the younger guys to play. We wanted the young guys to get a lot of reps because we knew throughout the year, guys are going to get banged up. Guys are going to get hurt. We're going to need them. So this is the time to get experience, not, in crunch time isn't the time. So we always wanted to get in and get out and let those guys play, let those guys make highlights. Because, again, I remember looking at them as when they were freshmen, they would go make a play. And, they posted 100 times throughout the week on social media. And I loved it for them. So that's kind of what we did. But we were always, for the most part, besides 2015, all those groups of guys were always locked in. We always practiced pretty hard. because we were just taking care of business. That was what it was, these kind of games.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into the score predictions for this week. So, Tre, since you were speaking last, why don't you go first?
Yeah, I think it'll be a little closer. That doesn't say much, but I think it'll be, my score prediction this week is going to be 49-17.
Ooh, giving them 17 points. All right.
I think, again, like what Josh said, they're not New Hampshire. I think they're a little bit better. And I think New Hampshire had opportunities to score points, but they didn't execute and we did. So I think we might have to give a little bit with that. But I think our offense is going to stay relatively the same.
All right. Alan, what are your thoughts?
I have UCF 42 and Sam Houston 17.
Ooh, another 17-point. Okay. I'm seeing a trend here. Josh, what have you got?
I need to screenshot this stuff with like a date and time because I literally have 48-17. I'm thinking give up a couple field goals both ways. I felt like a 48-13 is probably more realistic, but they're going to score. You know what? I'll edit. I'll go 48-13. I'll go down. There's too many 17s. 48-13.
All right. Josh says 48-13. I'm going to have Ben go last so that he can, closest to the pin or underbid us by $1 for all of us this week. So I'm going to go. I was going to say 48 as well, but I'm going to go 48-7. Actually, no, 48-10. That's what I'm going to go with because that gives them a field goal and a touchdown if something wonky happens, like a Ja'Cory Brown fumble. All right, Ben, the pressure's all on you. Who are you going to underbid?
I mean, I don't have any pressure. You guys can check our group text, and you can see that at 10:30, which was almost an hour ago, or not? Yeah, well, almost about 25 minutes ago.
10:31.
I texted 10:31. I took a picture of my score prediction. So 35-7. 35-17, and so the 17. I'm telling you, man. I don't know. So yeah, I think I hope my score prediction doesn't come anywhere close to that. At least on the offensive front, I hope we're able to kind of blow them out. But yeah, I mean, the more we talk,
you have us not covering the spread.
Yeah, that's right. I think the more we talked about this game, the more some of the comments that Alan made kind of almost convinced me to backtrack it, but I already took the picture at 10:31, so I was like, screw it, go ahead and
and folks, just so you know, he took a picture of his watch. So I will say that he definitely did have that 35-17. I do think you're too low, dude.
We all hope you are.
Honestly, like this isn't about the game for me. I'm not trying to be right. I have a feeling about that score, and I hope I'm wrong. But I mean, regardless, it'll be a 2-0, after week 2. But I don't think that's going to be a problem. But yeah, I had 35-17.
All right, let's do some quick keys to the game. For me, it's going to be, do the defensive backs hold their receivers in check? Because if they do, we're going to send everything at them. And I don't think this kid is going to like what he sees. So, I think just the key to this game for me is DBs hold it down. If the DBs hold it down, then it's going to be a long, long night for Texas State. What do you guys think?
Offensive line. I mean, I think the offensive line is going to be key for multiple reasons. One, keeping KJ clean-ish so he has enough time to do the processing he needs to open up the holes. Even though our Mount Rushmore, I saw that on a Kingdom t-shirt or something, we definitely have 4 or more running backs that don't need a lot of daylight. So give them enough daylight to really go downfield. feel like if they gel and work well, everything else fits. Because while I agree with you on the defense, I think a defense is almost a given at this point until they prove to us otherwise.
Yeah, so they had 44 solo tackles last game, 2 sacks, but 8 tackles for a loss. So they were getting in the backfield for Rice, but I think our O-line's a heck of a lot better. All right, anybody else? Keys to the game.
I think for me, just to take a step forward with KJ, I think he's just got to hit it. Let's see some open receivers, get the ball quickly, right? Like let's see some completed passes to open receivers. And I'm not saying that in a mocking way. I'm just saying that that's the step forward that we need to see, right? In order to see the progression that we're looking for in this offense for KJ Jefferson is, that they're going to be open because the defense is going to be looking in the backfield for our running backs to get the ball handed to them. And so there's going to be opportunities. There's going to be open receivers to pass the ball to in this game. And seeing that progression of him hitting those receivers, hopefully in stride and yards after the catch, that's what I'm looking for out of KJ Jefferson in this game.
It'll be interesting to see if Gus, in order to keep the running back room happy, goes run heavy on this so that everybody gets enough touches, right? So that'll be interesting for me. The other thing that'll be interesting for me, the flip side or Bizarro Gus this week could be
to bounce back KJ, right? Like to get him more involved.
Focus on the passing game, get that figured out. We know we've got a good running game. Get up early by a couple of scores and then let him throw the rock around the field and see what happens. Yeah. So, Alan, any keys for you? And
yeah, I mean, for me, I feel like this is, especially with that spread's a little too close for comfort for me. I don't like 21. I mean, you're talking about if you're in a 20-point game, even, kind of.
That's a dogfight, bro.
Yeah, middle second of this third quarter, for example, you're in a kind of a scary game. So for me, this feels like one of those games where, as much as, yes, I do want to see the passing game look better, and I'd also like to see the receivers get more separation from the opponent's DBs. But this kind of game feels like to me, is like when you're playing an opponent like this, step on their throats with the run game. I mean, if we can just kind of, suffocate them early and just continue to milk the clock. And, this feels like a perfect game to do that for, like, get a nice lead and then just kind of milk the clock and not let them, get too much of a chance to come back. So I don't want to see a lot of 3-and-outs or anything like that. I still feel like there's not a lot of pressure on us this game. So for me, I think you go to your strength in this one and just, you maybe iron out some other kinks that, and mistakes that we saw in the last game. But, step on them early and don't let them have any daylight for, some sort of big upset.
All right, Trey.
Yeah, I mean, the keys to the game to me are going to be the same as we did last week. If we can play like we did last week, can you hear me?
Yeah, I said show up.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I thought you said hello. Yeah, I mean, if we do what we need to do last week, and like Josh said, just have a little uptick for KJ, like Ben said as well. I don't know how much more we can really ask of our guys. I mean, they played great on defense. They played great on special teams. They played great in the run game and at receiver when given the chance. We just have to have the quarterback play a little bit better. And if we do that, I don't see too much. I mean, it'd be nitpicking.
I think this is a prove-it game for KJ, and I think ultimately Gus is going to let him air the ball out to make sure to see what he's got with KJ and to give him some more reps. Because the one comment I heard consistently from Arkansas folks was he gets better as the season progresses, right? So I think you give him snaps, I think you give him pass attempts, and see what happens. So,
you know what? One other thing that I saw in the first game that I don't want to see in this game is KJ trying to run over 3 defenders at one time. I do not want to see that in this game. I don't want to see that until the really important games where he's fighting for that extra 3 yards.
Moments too.
Yeah, there was a time in the third quarter of that New Hampshire game that, I mean, he took off running and it was like he was like 67 yards down the field, and he decided to just take a linebacker or something to head on. I mean, it's just, what are you doing? It's New Hampshire. We're up by 40 at that point.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I think that's just, again, just being 250 pounds, it's almost like you're like, I can run this guy over. To me, it's not smart. It isn't smart because Josh Allen does it now in the NFL. Right. It's just it's almost like an arrogance. Yeah. But again, you gotta, like I've always said, these defenders, we don't care how big you are. We want to hit the quarterback. Doesn't matter how big the quarterback is, because we never get to. So, like you said, he does, and he needs to protect himself.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go ahead and move on and talk a little bit about the Big 12 this week. Alan, why don't you share a little bit about the Big 12?
Yeah. So the Big 12 had a really strong opening week one. Overall, the conference went 14-2, which was the second best record of the Power Four conferences, only behind the Big 10. So overall, really strong opening week. Obviously, most of the conference did play against FCS opponents. So, I don't know how much, you take away from that. But as far as the actual, scores, so number 12, Utah, who actually moved up to number 11 in this week's poll, they beat Southern Utah 49-0. Then you have, in one of the few kind of Power Four versus Power Four, Penn State beat West Virginia 34-12. Not a huge surprise there, but West Virginia was.
I will say this: it all fell apart after that receiver got pushed. Like that no call right before the half. West Virginia was in that game pretty much until then, and then it kind of all just fell apart.
Yeah, that's fair. So that was one of the two losses that the Big 12 suffered in week one. Oklahoma State beat South Dakota State 44-20. That's an FCS school UCF has played a couple times. So that wasn't that, they put up 20 points against Oklahoma State. So kind of just gives you some context. Cincinnati beat Townsend 38-20, another FCS program that was able to put up 20 points on one of our conference mates. Iowa State beat North Dakota 21-3. So I guess did well defensively, but wasn't able to put up a lot of points given the opponent. Kansas State beat UT Martin 41-6. Baylor beat Tarleton State 45-3. Then the other loss this week for Big 12, which was talked about a lot, was UNLV upset Houston 27-7 at Houston at home. So they got semi kind of blown out there, and we're only able to score one touchdown against UNLV.
In garbage time too. That came in the fourth quarter for Houston.
Yeah, and that was a fairly big spread. I mean, UNLV is obviously an FBS program. They're in the Mountain West, but I don't know what that spread was, but I would assume it had Houston pretty much heavily favored. Then probably the most noteworthy one was Texas Tech had to go into overtime for a 1-point win against Abilene Christian.
Abilene
Christian. Sorry,
I watched that game.
Whew. Yeah, I know you were texting about it. So they won 52-51. I mean, the fact that Texas Tech gave up 51 points to an FCS program and had to win in overtime is pretty sad that we couldn't beat them last year.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like,
I'll tell you. And watching that game, like 3 or 4 players for Abilene Christian on offense were former Texas Tech players. So that was kind of like they had a vengeance type of game, and they played out of their minds. And they had possibly a worse 2-point play than we had at Oklahoma to try to win the game at the end.
I don't blame them for trying to win. They had nothing to lose there. Yeah. So I think but it's crazy to see that score. I mean, it's one thing if you're, whatever, it's a close game, but the fact that they gave up 51 is unbelievable. Yeah. Moving on, BYU beat Southern Illinois 41-13. Then Arizona, who's number 21 in the country, beat New Mexico 61-39. So Arizona put up the most points in the Big 12 this week, and UCF was, a close number 2 with 57. Arizona State beat Wyoming 48-7. Kansas beat Lindenwood 48-3. And then Colorado squeaked by North Dakota State, which North Dakota State is a very good program. They've won multiple national championships, but they, all that talk, all that hype they get, they win 31-26 on their home field. It took a couple miraculous plays by Travis Hunter just to get them some breathing room, and then they almost blew that lead. So they win. And then, as alluded to, the one Power 5, the other one Power 5 versus Power 5 matchup, or Power 4, I should say, TCU got a 34-27 win over Stanford at Stanford. So good week for the conference overall. I mean, most of it was like FCS and G5, but a couple Power 5 games with TCU getting one of them. So the Big 12 finishes 14-2. Then a couple other Big 12, like I said, UCF had the second most points in the conference. Overall, the Big 12 QBs averaged 290 passing yards last week, which was the most of any FBS conference in week 1. Through the first week of the season, 7 of the nation's top 10 leaders in receiving yards came from Big 12 programs. So that kind of goes along with that passing stat there. And overall, we kept the same 5 teams that we had in the original AP poll that came out, prior to the season starting. Same ones. All of them moved up 1 spot. Other than I think it was Arizona moved up 3 spots. So our highest ranked team is Utah now, just on the fringe of the top 10. They're at number 11. So, and then we had 2 teams that were in the receiving votes column as well. So we have a couple other teams that are on the verge there of cracking the top 25.
Yeah, it's interesting. Arizona State looked really good to me. Utah did what it was supposed to do. They didn't show anything crazy, but that's a solid team. K-State, which was interesting. Avery Johnson showed some struggle. I mean, we saw him last year in the game that we played K-State, and there's a lot of expectations on him, but he was showing his youth as a quarterback. But Arizona State really, really surprised me. Arizona was interesting because they were in a foot race basically with in their game early. But Texas Tech, bro, Crystal Pete had a misfire. I mean, it was just at the end of that game, I was watching them going back and forth in overtime, and I'm like, really, Texas Tech? Because Abilene Christian went for the 2-point play for the win, and obviously didn't get it with a terrible play call. Yeah. But it just, they should never be in that position, especially Texas Tech was supposed to be better, and they had a great defense last year. So I need to dig into Texas Tech a little bit more to figure out what's going on with their defense. But my understanding was they had a ton of people coming back. So I expected them to be better than what they were. And Arizona State, to me, overachieved. I wasn't sure what to make of them. I wasn't expecting them to be as good as they were on both sides of the ball. So it was a very interesting week in Big 12 land this week. So let's go ahead and move on to some other football news that's going on. That's NFL related. So Scott Frost, UCF's favorite son, unless he's in Temple or in Philadelphia, right? He did sign. He got a job with the Rams as an offensive analyst. So I think his road to his reputational recovery is firmly now started. That's his first step. It'll be interesting to see if he stays in the NFL or he tries to come back to college. The Nick Saban Academy for Delinquent Youth Coaches is no longer in existence. So, he could stay in the NFL. He was a successful NFL coach before, and he may say to heck with college football and just ride it out in the NFL. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens with him. Tremont Morris-Bash did sign with the Chargers, as did JRP, who ended up signing with the Jags. He was released from waivers by Pittsburgh, which also a certain kicker that you should all know was also released by the Steelers as well. But if he doesn't end up landing somewhere else, and I don't think he did so far, he was kind of last year and the past few years, he was out and then he got signed and then he was out for a while and then he got signed, etc. If not, he can always go to Lockheed Martin, which is where he was working when he first got picked up into the NFL as a kicker as well. So any other football news you guys want to mention?
No, I just want to say, as far as Frost signing with the Rams, I think that's an interesting situation to watch. I mean, he couldn't have. I think it's probably a good situation there with, with McVay. Another young coach there. An innovative offensive mind. So, being able to be on that staff at the Rams, I think. It's just a fascinating thing for us to keep an eye on and see where the next step takes him with Frost and how he grows in that role.
All right.
I agree. I think if it were, in my opinion, I'd stay in the NFL. Because the lifestyle is better. Nowadays, these coaches are recruiting literally year round. Like I talked to some of my coaches back in high school. They were saying like, it's a different beast. Like college used to be where a lot of guys wanted to go because you kind of had that dead period where you couldn't have any communication. There's no football. So like that was your break. Now now you have early visits, and during that dead period, now that it's year round. So you're dealing with 18-year-olds, and then you throw in, hey, I want $500,000 to come play for. Like it's so many different variables that you have to deal with now. Just go deal with the pros that are already pros. They're professionals.
At least there's guidelines around the professionalism in the pros, right? Like there's no guidelines.
Or at least you get to sign them for 2 or 3 years.
Exactly.
And those guys are just they go in the building. You work on your X's and O's, and you don't have to babysit them. You don't tell them, hey, make sure you go to class. Make sure you don't make this teacher mad. Make sure you're going to weights. No, it's go to weights or you get fined. And most of the time the coaches don't even say that. They don't even deal with that part. It's just a lot of X's and O's. So I think that's what he should do. It's like you said, Ben, great move, great staff. McVay's a beast, and he's young. So hopefully it works out for him. I'm excited.
Trey just wants to sideline passes for a Chargers game. That's all I heard.
I'll be out there with you, man. You invite me.
Yeah, with you.
All right. With all of that being said, let's go ahead and get in a little bit of listener love. We appreciate all of our listeners and new subscribers. And for some reason, I don't know why, we've had way more subscribers come up in the last 30 days, but it doesn't list all of you. But those that do, I want to make sure that I shout you out because we wouldn't do this without you. And you're the ones that make us go. So make sure you're subscribing, that you're listening. If you're listening via podcast, make sure you're following us there. So for this week's listener love, first up is Francisco Guzman. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. We appreciate it. Tell your friends. And then also a very interesting name, On the Road Again with Dave and Christy. Dave and Christy, thank you for subscribing to the show. We appreciate you. Go Knights and charge on. All right. That being said, it is the time of the week for Alan's Oxymoronic Stat of the Week in our drama and our war between stats versus facts.
Well,
Alan?
Given the performance in week 1, obviously a lot of the talk was about the rushing attack and the running game. So I felt it was pertinent to kind of keep it there. And there's a lot of good stats that came from that. A lot of second best and second most, which was interesting. So the 454 yards that we ran were the second most in program history. First since becoming an FBS program, but second overall. So we actually ran for more than 454 yards as a D1 AA school. The 8.4 yards rushing per attempt was also the second most in a single game in program history. And then RJ Harvey averaged 12.9 yards per carry in the win, which was also the second most by an individual in program history for a single game. So a lot of great stats that came from the running. A couple other cool things. 5 Knights had at least 40 yards, and there were 14 carries that went for at least 10 yards or more. And then the kind of final stats here is UCF, dating back now 2 seasons, has rushed for at least 140 yards or more in each game of the last 2 seasons, and they're the only team in the nation to accomplish that feat.
Wow.
Nice.
That's a pretty good way to end it. All right, Josh, you've got your work cut out for you, but it is now time for Josh's sometimes funny fact of the week. Josh, take it away.
So I was looking at Sam Houston State and looking to the next game, and I was trying to find any athletes that are well known enough that you would all know of them. And there's one football player, but we'll put that to the side. There's someone way more famous from Sam Houston State, non-athlete, or at least not known as an athlete. So this nonagenarian news anchor is perhaps Sam Houston State's most famous alumni. Known for his Texanisms, his quotes include, "Americans will put up with anything provided it does not block traffic." And regarding the 2000 presidential election, "This race is shakier than cafeteria jello," and "This thing is as tight as the rusted lug nuts on a 55 Ford." Who is this famous Sam Houston State alumni?
You said news person?
News anchor.
News anchor. This was a national news thing?
You know exactly who this is. Nonagenarian, 91 years old currently.
Ooh. So this gentleman was older when I was younger, which is saying a lot. What is the first letter of the person's first name?
That's going to be easy. It's
like Walter Cronkite or something, like somebody like that.
No, Walter Cronkite's dead. He said he's 91 years old, which implies that he's alive.
Larry
of
King,
that ilk, yes.
Larry King is also dead.
What did I hear? I heard Walter Cronkite, which is no. And who else?
Larry King.
No, isn't he? Is he?
I don't know if he died or not. Did he die?
Yeah, I think he's gone the way of the Angels, folks.
Yeah, I think that was a couple years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So when he was on, Tre was like 7. I'm trying to think of the national news anchors back then.
Aaron Andrews. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
91.
There's like a big 3 of anchors. He hit one.
Dan Rather?
That would be Daniel Irvin Rather Jr. But yes, Dan Rather is a Sam Houston State alumni.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Probably the most important
rabbit out of a hat.
Now I will say this. Let's quickly try one of the football player. This is a quarterback that's been in the NFL. Started at SMU last season at Sam Houston State, and has been on 11 teams in the NFL. 11, whether practice squad or full member. Last played in 2020.
No idea.
How long has he played?
He played from 2002 to 2020.
Oh, gosh.
And he has a first name you might know.
2002 to 2020? Damn, that's a long career.
It is. Currently a Minnesota Vikings quarterbacks coach.
Quarterbacks?
He played offense?
He was a quarterback.
He said he's a quarterback. Yeah,
he's a quarterback.
Oh, I thought he said corner. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
18-year quarterback, man.
That would be insane.
Yeah, that's why I was like, holy smokes. Okay.
I think there's one that's 9 years, isn't there? Isn't there a guy that's 9 years? That's a 9th year. Like,
I'll give you the hints. His first name is Josh.
Josh McCown.
There you go.
Wow! Look at Tre pulling a rabbit.
Way to go, Tre.
It's not too many quarterback.
I'm genuinely impressed with that. Good job, Tre.
Yeah, that was going to be a harder one to do as a fun fact, but because people know the name, but you don't think of popular quarterbacks as Josh McCown, but he's been around for a while and still a QB coach.
I know he's been coaching for a while too.
Greatest job in sports, man, is a 15-year backup quarterback vet.
Brady
Blake Bortles.
I wish.
Yeah, no, he's out of the league now, but he's made enough money. He made enough on his draft contract that he's fine. So he's crushing Miller Lights and ripping cigs. That's what Blake's doing right now.
Yeah, just to correct myself, 12 franchises and 18 seasons.
An 18 season. There you go. Yeah.
Wow.
I think you said 12 years.
Let's list them off.
I could do that. You want me to do that? You got it. No.
Jets.
Yes.
Bears.
Yes.
Browns.
Right? He played for the
Browns.
No. Yes. No. He played for the Browns for 2 years. Yeah.
Lions.
He did play for the Lions for a year.
Jets.
He's already said.
Oh. Giants.
What you're basically saying is all the terrible teams.
Pretty
which
much.
is why I threw Detroit in there. Vikings, maybe?
No. He didn't play.
11 teams?
12. I think 12.
Didn't he play for the Cowboys?
He did not.
Oh.
I thought he did
He
too.
played for the Cardinals.
He did.
Yes.
That's where he started.
Yeah, I said it like eight times and no one heard me.
Come on, Ben. Get closer to the mic, Ben. Use your big boy voice.
Either
everybody was talking over me.
Yeah. So either as practice squad or other, or you miss the Raiders, the Dolphins, the Panthers, the
Seahawks.
49ers, the Bucks, and the Eagles and the Texans.
Golly.
Wow. All right. That man made a lot of
I
money.
got around.
Anyways, that's enough on Josh McCown.
All right. So with that being said, and enough of Josh on Josh action, let's go ahead and switch gears and pivot to the UCF Athletic Sports Update, otherwise known as all of the sports that Alan does not watch. All right, Alan, since you put together the notes this week and Josh didn't, why don't you take us through all the notes you looked up?
Wait. Hold on. I added two things to the thing. No, two things to the things he does not watch because he does not watch them. He could do it, but I actually did do 2 of those 4.
You did do 2 of those. All right. I'll let Josh. This is usually your segment, so take it away.
All right. And I did add to the 2 as well. So UCF women's soccer, they beat number 24 Georgia, and this is for real this time, 2-0. They play that team of the Southwest on the road next. Now, UCF men's soccer, they tied Wake Forest 1-1, and they play UC Irvine next. They actually got a bump in their rankings. They are now ranked number 17.
I wouldn't be surprised if women's soccer doesn't get ranked after next week.
It's possible. They're both doing really, really well, and I hope this year it is sustained. That's like last year, women's soccer did well and then had some issues at the end of the season. Men's soccer completely fell apart after they got that number 1 ranking. So I'm hoping it's a sustained, long-term, great season for both those teams. So women's volleyball, they beat Virginia Tech 3-2 and Charlotte 3-0. They're taking on Stetson and UNC Wilmington this coming week at the Edmond Center in the land. They are 2-0 and they are undefeated so far. And I believe the coach got their 100th win, Jenny.
Jenny Maurer.
Yeah. I believe that happened too. And
it's
usually,
good. Actually, I congratulated her, and she hit me back because Jenny has been around the program for a really, really long time. She was recruiting coordinator under Coach Dash, and was absolutely wonderful and approachable. As was Coach Dash, and still is. And, I just want to give a quick shout out. I didn't mean to take over here, but I wanted to give a quick shout out to her because she is a great person in person, very passionate about UCF volleyball, and someone that you should go out there support. She's doing great with the team now that we've adjusted to, Big 12 play. And, make sure you shout out Coach Jenny on X or Instagram or whatever you want to, whatever you can find her on, and give her a congratulations because she works her tail off and she's someone that deserves support and praise.
Yeah, it's a lot of these sports that Alan doesn't watch. Really, they got a huge step up in competition when they came to the Big 12 or men's soccer, at least. And I think they're in the Sun Belt. They're like the side conference they're in because there's no men's soccer right now in Big 12. Although it's interesting, I'm wondering with the new 4 teams, that's something that look into to see if what's happened with men's soccer. If I'm pretty sure Arizona plays soccer, if I know that school at all, at least from when I was growing up in high school, they had a lot of sports there. Getting back to sports, we don't really talk about too much. Truthfully, men's golf placed 7th at the Island Resort Intercollegiate Tournament, and that's not why I'm saying this. Chase Haygood recorded a career best 208. 8 under par, and I believe he was under for every single round he played in, and he won the individual title at the Sage Run Golf Club. So if you win a title at something that's in the realm of things Alan doesn't watch, we'll try to shout it out here on the Night at Ones.
So what you're saying is Chase Haygood is his new name, not just Chase Haygood. So he's been dubbed Chase Haygood at golf.
He had a really good offseason from all reports, and it's continuing on to the season too. So not bad. Men's golf, we sometimes do well, but it's nice to see someone even get individual titles. It's wonderful.
Awesome. All right. Thank you for that, Josh and Alan, because apparently they tag teamed this and didn't let me know. Alan always takes care of our notes every week, so shout out to him. Nobra will be doing the editing post production because I did, of course, manage to screw up the intro, but you guys won't be able to see that. That being said, this was a great week in UCF land. Love the fact that despite the fact that Ben mutes our text thread because we text too much, love the fact that we have football back. And the other amazing thing about it is because we are now in the Big 12 and we're making some noise, we care about what other teams are doing, which makes college football and watching college football a whole heck of a lot more fun for me. It means I'm watching more college football. So the weekend doesn't end with the UCF's 4 hours of fame. We continue watching the other teams. So shout out to the Big 12. Let's hope we see some progress in some teams, and specifically with KJ this week. I've said a lot of very haughty things about his performance because I've seen him play in Arkansas when he's really good. And, with FSU being down and us playing UF, which didn't look much better this week with Graham Mertz, their defense was pitiful. I think it bodes well for our ability to challenge for state champions as a P4 for the first time. So with that being said, lots to look forward to. Let's go beat Sam Houston State. Go Knights and
Charge on. Can you believe FSU season is already over 2 games into the